One last question, this will be here. Thoughts that create a good, solid foundation are, and if you could fill in the blank with that.
Thoughts?
In your opinion.
Well, following what I've been saying today, I really do believe we have to develop a rational self-interest in ourselves to try to be what we can be. I feel like the Nike commercial, be all that we can be. It's real important to be involved with self-discovery. I personally think people who are into self-discovery are very interesting people, provocative people, good people to talk about, talk to, be around. So I would say that's really, really important. There are a lot of things you can do to accomplish that. We talk about centering yourself. We talk about developing interests in politics or in world affairs or getting into interesting careers. There are a lot of ways you can do that. But I think it's real important to work on yourself. I believe very strongly in some type of spirituality, some type of spiritual grounding. I think people who are without a spiritual grounding are depressed. I mean, I'm making a blanket statement. I remember one time I made a blanket statement that Catholics were depressed. And I was booed off of a stage because there were a lot of Catholics there. And what I said was, if I'm interviewing a person, they come to my office and I'm interviewing them, and they said, well, I feel a little depressed, Doc. I said, okay. And then my next question would be, are you Catholic? Because at that time, anyway, Catholics had so many don'ts in their religion that you could sin simply by getting up. If you do anything other than get up in the morning. Well, I think, of course, the priests and the popes over the years have looked at that since the 50s and the 60s and have done a lot of things. For instance, somewhere around the 60s, the Catholic Church came out with a statement that a little libation, a little wine, can actually lift the spirits and therefore can be a positive thing, And it was great that I think that they did that because it brought them more in step with what people were doing. But before that, a drink, oh my God. But then you still have people who think, a drink, oh my God. So when the Catholic Church came up with that, the fact that you cannot use birth control, you got 18 children, but you can't use birth control. There's a place where we have to put the realities and whatever the church is saying in the same ballpark. And I think the churches are making steps in that direction. But I don't mean so much church religion as I mean spirituality. When I say spirituality, that's what I mean. We are physical, we know that. We are less sure about our psychological selves. But we are psychological, meaning that our physical self acts according to some predictability. There is predictability to what we do. Now we try to relate it to the moon, we try to relate it to the star configurations, We refer, for instance, to a woman's cycle, menstrual cycle, in terms that go along with the cycle of the moon. So we have often thought that we were like other things in the universe. We are part of that whole universe. Okay, maybe we are, maybe we're not. But we have to gear who we are, not just in that broad sense, but also who we are as individuals. And I think spirituality brings that third dimension. So we have our physical selves, we have our psychological selves, how we behave. Some of it we can explain, some of it we cannot. And then there's a spiritual side of us. And without that side of us, call it what you want, but without that spiritual side of us, we can be lost. You know, the death of a loved one. It can knock you to your knees. Wait, where does your loved one go when they die? Do they just go in that hole? Are they just burned up as in cremation and just become ashes that you throw and then they're nothing? It's the basic question that we grapple with. If you go back to Jean-Paul Sartre's Being and Nothingness, which was a revolutionary concept way back there when he wrote this book. We face that. Are we nothing? Are we a person asleep, dreaming that this is happening? Or are we a person who is awake, who's doing this? I mean, what is life? Is life the dream, or is the dream life? Those are the kinds of questions that I think your philosophy and your spirituality can help you grapple with. Is it you, or is there more? Do we go to another level when we die? Do we go to heaven when we die? You say, why is that relevant? It's relevant because I get people in my office who are grappling with that. The thought of death is frightening to them, even when they're not sick.